Hi everyone, and welcome to week 4 of the class. Before we get started, I wanted to draw your attention to two things really quickly, a little bit of a change in the reading schedule. So if you look at the readings that are listed here, they're a little bit different from the syllabus. That's just because there were some differences between the previous edition of the textbook and the current edition. It's about the same amount of reading, just that the pages have switched around a bit. You'll be reading from chapters 5 and chapter 6. Related to that, the PowerPoint slides in the materials folder, they might not correspond exactly with what's in the textbook. That you might have to do some digging around to find the right PowerPoint slide because, again, those correspond with the previous edition. And you should also consult the textbook website, and also at this point you should have the textbook and be reading that as well. Okay, so this week we'll be looking at micro and macro sociology. In Chapter 5, you'll read about Erving Goffman, who was really a pioneer of microsociology. So he was interested in understanding the interactions between people and how they interact on a daily basis. So really looking at like everyday, mundane sort of stuff. Microsociologists look at body language, they look at words and conversations, spaces between the people interacting, and also time between responses, all to understand the interactions. While these might sound like insignificant things to study in sociology versus major organizations or groups, microsociology actually has a lot to contribute to the field and helps inform more macro issues like theories relating to race and gender, and you'll see more of that towards the end of Chapter 5. In Chapter 6, we go a little more into the macro, and you'll read about how people form interacting groups and networks and organizations. You want to give special attention in this chapter to the discussions of bureaucracy and ideal types, since these are the main principles of Max Weber, and you might want to use them in your first essay. For this week, you'll be writing on the discussion board, which will relate to either the George Ritzer reading, it's a short reading that's linked in your weekly folder, or the Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft e-portfolio that you'll be doing. So the discussion board's really going to link both of these, both of the extra reading and the e-portfolio assignment. And it's also sort of going to bridge weeks 3 and 4 when we're looking at culture and society, and then we're looking at micro and macro social interactions. So by Thursday night, you'll want to post your first discussion board assignment on either McDonaldization theory or Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft. And by Sunday night, you'll need to also post your e-portfolio, which is just a quick worksheet on Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft. You literally just have to go through a list of networks or organizations or institutions and check off whether they more relate to Gemeinschaft or Gesellschaft. And again, we talked about that last week in the lecture. And you can also visit a site I posted for more information on that. So Essay 1 is due on September 29th, and next week the only thing you have to do for this class is to write that essay. There won't be any discussion board or e-portfolio assignments. So for this essay, you're going to draw on your previous discussion board and e-portfolio posts, as well as information from the textbook, and you can look at outside sources as well. And you need to identify the macro issues that early social theorists were concerned with, and then focus on two main theorists and describe the main points of their approaches to studying and theorizing the social world. And next you'll find which of the two theorists are the most applicable today and why, and finish up the essay with an example of a macro issue in modern society, and a brief discussion of how the theorist you chose as the most applicable would analyze that issue. So all of the instructions for the essay, it's linked here. This takes you to the essays folder. And you'll be able to see the Essay 1 assignment, due 9/29. I also link you to ASA format. So now this paper really shouldn't be more than 2 or 3 pages, and there's a grading rubric once you open up the document. There's a grading rubric attached at the bottom, which really tells you exactly how I grade the paper. Make sure that you proofread your essays, or better yet, have someone else proofread them before submitting them. And if you're quoting from the book or another source, which you probably will be, make sure that you cite it with the ASA citations that are linked here, and they're also in the information for the course. It's very important that you cite your work, otherwise it's considered plagiarism. Finally, you need to have an introduction, which outlines how your essay is going to go. And if you don't have an introduction, you'll lose points. You'll see that on the grading rubric.